What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and today we're taking the 2019 STi on a road trip. So we're going to Muskegon, Michigan, and I want to see how comfortable this is going to be on a road trip. So we're going to hit up Muskegon, Michigan for some camping. We're going to go down to South Haven, which is another hour south, I believe, to hit up Gridlife and see what's going on at the Gridlift Festival, and just see how comfortable the STi is camping. So we do have our Jeep, and we're not going to take the Jeep today, and we want to see what it would be like to take the STi over the Jeep. We do have an exhaust on it. It's got the Tome Extreme, and it is pretty loud, so I'll be curious to see how annoying that's going to be, just sitting on the interstate for, you know, hours, just listening to it in a somewhat higher RPM range. Just when you get on it, you can definitely hear it, so we'll be curious to see if it's annoying after sitting for a couple hours just listening to that exhaust. So we're gonna get this STi packed up and we're gonna get on the road. Okay, so we got all of our camping gear packed into the very back of the trunk of the STi. So what we put in the back is all of our main camping essentials, like our sleeping bag, our waters. We have our cast iron skillet, our tent, our pillows, so we have sleeping pads as well too. So we were able to shove everything in there, and it's a pretty tight fit. I thought more was gonna fit in the back than I originally had planned for. And so what we had to do is we moved all of the other stuff, like our sleeping stuff and like all our kitchen food and everything, was just shoved down in the seat back footwell. So we got all that fit in here. I'm sure this will move around as we're flying around down the highway. We do have the Akima roof rack. We decided not to use that primarily because I want to save on the gas mileage, and I didn't want it to kill that. So on the other side, we had to open up the seat, and the seat allows us to get in like our big tent and our chairs and some of our bigger items that we have in there. And then we have some pillows and a bunch of random other stuff just shoved down in the back. So for two people, it works. It's pretty tight. It's probably pretty much the same as our Jeep that we use. So we got everything ready to go. Everything's packed up. We just got a couple more things to get some gas, and we're gonna get on the road. So we made it to Muskegon. It took us about 2.5 hours, and I spent $69 on gas, which was insane. We still have to go set up our camp, which is gonna take us another 30 minutes, and then we'll probably hit the back roads because there's some awesome roads we're gonna drive around. We won't speed though. We'll obey all the speed limit traffic laws, for sure. Definitely, not a doubt.
Yeah, okay.
When you first get to the state park, you drive through it a little bit, and you hit this T intersection, and it's pretty much all water. And so you pretty much see all of Lake Michigan, which looks awesome. We're gonna go do that, and then we're gonna get some food because I'm starving, and we'll go from there. Is it worth the drive?
Manejar?
Was it worth the drive?
Oh, is it worth it? Absolutely. 100%. Gorgeous view.
Dang, look at the whip. What's going on?
The Toski.
Okay, so it's day 2. I was gonna record a video after we checked out the sunset once we end up getting our camp set up, but the camera died, so we ended up just enjoying the sunset and called it a day. And so last night we were cooking. We started to cook and we realized we forgot many things at home. So even though we packed everything up, we were super unorganized, and I was unorganized, let me rephrase that. And so we had to improvise our cooking, and we were gonna cook in this cast iron that we bought. We didn't cook in it because basically we had no utensils we didn't have an oven mitt, we couldn't even pull it out of the fire. So we ended up cooking on our grill that we bought, and so we made it do with that. We just got back from Gingerman Raceway, so we ended up waking up pretty early in the morning and we headed south about an hour, and we went to Gingerman Raceway for Gridlife. And it was absolutely amazing. All the cars there that we saw, I mean, S2000s, STIs, I mean, every car that you could think of, we basically saw. And able to see them on the track doing time attack and doing drifting. There's arcade room, everything that was there was just, it was a phenomenal experience. And it was super cool to see. On the upside of that too, I also got to meet Ben, who is a part of Gears and Gasoline, and he is in part why I started doing this channel, just creating automotive content or creating outdoors content in general. I was able to meet him, say hi to him, which was super cool. I'm able to see his car that he was time attacking, and able to see him drive it, which was also super cool too. So the event was just, it was crazy awesome. I mean, being able to see all these cars, I mean, it was sweet. So the favorite part of the day at Gingerman was being able to see all the drift cars. I mean, the time attack cars were cool, but when the drift cars started coming out, they were basically like lining up in sync, and it was like 3 of them at a time going on a corner, and they were like, you know, feet away from each other. I mean, they're talking about 2 feet of these cars going around these corners drifting, and they didn't touch. I mean, it was crazy. And as they went around, they'd be in groups and groups and groups, and what would happen is like the smoke from the tires would just like pile up, and you basically couldn't see anything. And so I'm wondering, what do they see when they're drifting around these corners? Because you can't see anything, the spectators can't see anything, it's just smoke in the air. And I'm thinking, like, how can they do that possibly, like, without basically just seeing smoke? So if you're on the edge to see Gridlife or go to the Gridlife event, it's definitely an event worth checking out. So I've been to a few in Michigan here. The organization hasn't been that great. The views also haven't been that great at all either. But being able to actually find a spot consistently, be able to see the cars on the track, be able to walk around all the paddocks and see everything very open, it was an awesome event. They had really well organized, very well set up. On the upside, if you are into EDM music and things like that, some of these are festivals. They're not just time and track and racing and car shows. So in our instance, we didn't go for the music, but it was nice to see the music there. But I think the biggest upside was being able to see the cars consistently. That is super important. You go to these events, you want to see the cars race, you want to see them drive on the track. And some of the other ones I went to, you just can't see anything. It's too packed, it's too crowded. And Gingerman was perfect. There was views from basically anywhere you walked, you could find a view to see the cars driving. So it was definitely worth going. I would definitely drive back again. We drove 3 hours to Muskegon. We drove an hour south just to go see it, so we're already 4 hours into driving, and it was 100% worth going down there to see it. So if it's something that you're thinking about doing, it's definitely worth doing. So in this trip, I brought my wife, and it was her first big car event. We've been to, big car event. And the excitement on her face, seeing all these cars drift, seeing them all drive, be able to see all the paddocks and see all the setups that these cars use, watch the mechanics work in real time, being able to see that, she loved it. And now I have a reason to go to more car events, because if I go, she goes, and we both have a good time. And the main reason that this whole trip was planned was I want to buy a race car, and I want to build a race car, build, whatever it may be. And now I have an excuse to, because she's seen it, she's like, wow, this is cool. And I'm like, great, I'm gonna buy a race car. He's like, okay, we're gonna do it. We got our hot dogs. This is what we had to use last night, and so I basically had to use these little tong thingies. I don't know where they went, but basically I had to use this thing to flip chicken last night because we forgot our tongs. And so we're using this because we can't use our cast iron that we bought. I was super stoked to use it though. Brand new, not even used. Our camping dedicated pot. Okay, so we're back home. We ended up taking a shorter trip. We noticed last night that there was going to be some rain rolling in the morning, and it wasn't going to be just like scattered showers. It literally was rain consistently from 6 a.m. to like 2 p.m. or something like that. So we decided ultimately, let's just head home early instead of we won't be able to enjoy the day the following day. we'd have to get up right away and just, you know, pack our stuff in the middle of the rain and also just skedaddle. So we decided to head out late last night. And so on the drive back last night, what I realized is on the way there, I really didn't notice the exhaust. Maybe it's because we were kind of excited to get out of the, you know, on a road trip, take the car for a drive. But the exhaust on the way home was much louder than I thought. So we ended up we had to keep the seats down to fit some of the stuff in the back seat. And when you put the seat down with a Tome, you can hear the sound echoing more through the back of the car and up towards the front. And so the little bit of exhaust note that you get coming through is very noticeable. So that 3-hour drive, I mean, it was just constant, just like brrr, the whole time. My wife was able to sleep through it, but you know, as I'm listening to music or just driving, the more I'm just relaxing, the more I notice it in the background, and it was pretty annoying after a while. So we did probably about 8 to 9 hours of driving. It was about 2 hours and 45 minutes to Muskegon. It was about 1 hour and 20 minutes south to South Haven, and that's back and forth each way. So my math is probably wrong, but it was like 8-9 hours-ish with other drives in between that as well too. But we also spent a lot of gas too. Spent like at least $200 on gas, and the gas is expensive right now. Taking the Subaru was not cheap versus taking the Jeep. The Jeep would have been a little less expensive, and it gets way better gas mileage than the STi, but the gas money was worth it, and the trip was worth it. So all in all, I would call the trip a success. If we decided to take the STi on a trip again, I would definitely use the roof rack, and I would definitely make sure those seats are up. If it's any longer than 3 hours-ish, I probably wouldn't want to take it, just because it would just be really annoying for so long, being able to hear that. Unless you're drowning it out with music, which you can do, but I mean, we like to have a conversation, we like to just kind of enjoy the time, we just like to relax. So if we took it again, no more than 3 hours. The exhaust is very noticeable. Space-wise, it definitely fit all the stuff that we needed. Even when we packed up last night, we just kind of shoved everything in there, and we didn't really think about it because we were just trying to get out of there. It was like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and we wanted to make sure we got home at a reasonable time. So overall, it had plenty of storage space. It's about the same as the Jeep. The Jeep has a little bit more height in the back, so you can stack things more, but I mean, overall, you know, cargo space, it's pretty similar. We fit all the same stuff in there. But if it's something we did again, I'd probably try to build some kind of compartment so we could stack things a little bit more organized and a little more neatly. But even just shoving it in there worked totally fine. Overall, the trip was definitely a success. We did some awesome driving on the back roads. We got to see some beautiful scenic sunsets. We got to hang out by Lake Michigan. It was a beautiful day. And then also being able to take my wife to an event like Gridlife was really fun to be able to enjoy it with, you know, just not myself, but being able to enjoy it with her. And watching her get excited by all the drift cars, all the racing, you know, just intrigued by all the stuff that goes into building a race car. You know, maintaining it, having your paddock, having your team, you know, constantly changing out tires, making sure everything's good to go. If something breaks, you have to fix it there. And so being able to see that, you know, she really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was a great time. I'm definitely going to go back for next year. And also just driving the car around, being able to just have fun with the car. I bought it to drive it. That's what I'm doing. And wherever we go, we get compliments on it. So we were driving on the way back from Gridlife, and some guy just drove by, just out the window, thumbs up. And it was cool. It was just to be able to see that. And it's been like that ever since I've gotten the cars. Everywhere I go, I get a compliment from somewhere. People left notes on my car. People ask me to hear the exhaust when I'm just parked at a random spot. You know, everywhere that we go, we get compliments. And when I first got it, she was just like, why is everyone so excited about the car? And you know, it's one of those things, like if you own a Subaru, it's something people want these cars, people like these cars. They're cool cars. They're known to break. They're known for ringland failure. If you don't take care of it, I would say, definitely, I mean, there's definitely a lot of spark around this. So as my first video, vlog style, we learned a lot. My wife was super helpful being able to shoot stuff for me. I was able to teach her how to use the gimbal. But I definitely learned some things, and making sure I have spare batteries because our gimbal died at the Gridlife event, and the footage I had to capture was all shaky, which you will probably see in this video. And also making sure that the mic's charged, the camera's charged, the proper transfer equipment for getting everything off my camera into my computer on the fly. But also just planning everything out on the go. I didn't have a plan for this video, and other videos I have planned in the upcoming, I have more of a plan. This one was just like run and gun shoot and just capture as much stuff as I can, and just get in front of the camera and speak to, which is also very difficult. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments or any type of things you want to hear about or see about that, you know, even pertain to this trip or just in general, comment down below. I will definitely respond to you. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next video.